Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to take this pile of parts down here and turn it into this. Coming up next. Well, I've got to find a little better lighting, but I definitely don't want to stare into the fury of 1,000 suns while I'm doing this. We are working on installing our radiant heat in our shop. It's been urged that I figure out a way to get heat in here, at least on the slab this winter, and we have a large pile of parts here from Hydro Smart, a local company up near Nowthen, Minnesota. Not sponsored, unfortunately, but I will say they are a great outfit to work with. Went and purchased a pile of stuff here from Menards, and after talking with the guys at Hydro Smart for a couple of days back and forth about the best option for our space, I have the following pile of parts. What we're looking at is 2 zones, 10 loops each. I have a total of 18 loops in the shop now, so we do have some room for 2 more loops should I need to expand or add anything in. We have our 2-zone panel here, and above that we have our master integrator panel with our main valve or pump and input and output to the boiler. And over here we have our 190,000 BTU LP fired boiler. So that is what we're working on doing now. I've already started. I've got some 4x8 sheets of 5/8 plywood that I went ahead and sealed, just moisture barrier. I have in the back of the pickup here, I have 50 gallons of the magical goo that goes in all of the nearly mile of PEX that we're walking on. And the goal is to clean up this corner over here and set our plywood in this area right here, hook up to our PEX, and snap our fingers, and it works. But it's never quite that easy. The shop is not yet insulated, but for this space, I'm going to be taking 2-inch pink foam, the same underlayment we used below our pad here, or our slab, and then I'm going to face it with R19, so we're going to end up getting about R30, R31 in this area here behind where all the plumbing and parts are going to be. So when we ever do get the insulation on the rest of the building, we will at least have a good start and have this area already taken care of, so I don't have to figure out how to spray foam behind this section. So we're just gonna get started. I've got some prep work to do. I've got to clean up this area. I'm gonna go ahead and get our pink foam stuck on the wall, the gaps filled, everything like that, seams sealed, get our plywood stuck up on the wall, and then we'll come back, we can start hanging our integrator panels and working on our plumbing. Alrighty, we've got a big old white wall behind us. It took a little longer than I had hoped, but it also got warm out here. It's about 94 degrees in here right now. So putting in floor heat seems a little silly, but here we are. I did go ahead and get my foam board behind there, glued in, seam sealed, seam taped, and also the R19 faced insulation and our 5/8 plywood. Everything is screwed and bolted through. Washers, lock washers, we're good to go. It's not gonna come off of there. And below me I have one of our 10 loop PEX manifolds and our 2-valve distribution panel. I'm gonna mount them down here. It is kind of warm, so I'm probably gonna turn the fan back on and just kind of work through with some music. But what I'm gonna do is figure out where the first manifold goes, and then I wanna set the one of the panels, one of the valve panels, integrator panels, whatever you wanna call them, up here on the wall. The second one's gonna stack on top of that, and then the boiler is gonna go over here. Now, yes, that leaves me plenty of free space over here for whatever, who knows, but we have the space. Now, is there a gap? There is a gap behind me. I wanted to make sure that this thing was set so I had room for both of the manifolds down below, and I wasn't hanging off this side or that side with all the plumbing, because these manifolds are spaced a little bit wider than the pipes are. No big deal there, but I am just trying to make the use of the space I've got. If there's extra space, great. Eventually, the rest of this building up to that 8 feet mark is going to be likely wrapped in white tin, rib steel, whatever. That's my plan, just for ease of maintenance, wash down. I don't think I'm going to be putting plywood all the way around. That seems quite costly. So anyways, I thought I had enough decent screws to hang these things with. I don't know that I even have the right ones here for hanging the manifold, but at least until I get back to Menards tomorrow. Let's see, these, yep, those heads are too small, but it could at least let me hang it on there for tonight, see where things lay, get the other integrator panel up on here, and then tomorrow I'll go back. There's a few more fittings I need for the intake input from the boiler, need another 1 inch to PEX A, and I'll get some better hardware for hanging these things on the plywood. But for now, let's just hang them on here and see where it lays. Well, I just dropped my Phillips head from my screw gun down into the concrete depths, where I probably will never see it again. Nope, I think I actually dropped it down one of the 90-degree elbows where my PEX is. So I'm gonna go find the new Phillips head before I do anything else. Well, lucky me, the fifth wheel behind me has a toolbox in it with a complete set of heads. So I'm good to go, at least for now. So let's go ahead, get this run in the rest of the way. And like I said, I'll get the better, more appropriate, bigger heads on here, or some washers tomorrow. But for right now, we're just gonna set it in here. And see how it looks. Now next, I've got that integrator panel down here, and that also is going to line up here. My main goal is I want to make sure when I put my PEX here, it's not hanging over, able to be damaged or kinked or hit. So I want to keep everything on this plywood. So that's my goal. And right now I'm looking at about, oh, come on, if I measure and bring it would work. I'm about 6 inches in from the end of the plywood. And like, there's my Sharpie. So if I take 6 inches in, put a mark where I want this first panel to be, and if I was smart, I would take some of my self-tapping metal screws for along here, like these are, so I can anchor this thing in securely. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Make a mark 6 inches in and use that as a reference. Where are those other screws? Watch, with my luck, they're too big for the holes. Well, they'll barely fit. This is one of those times when you should probably have a friend helping you, and I don't really have any friends. So if I drop this, that's gonna suck. Yeah, it's not the lightest thing in the world. There's my 6 inches, give or take, that my screw just fell off of. Great. Try this again. 6 inches, give or take, and I can move this around once it's installed. Huh. Up you go. Starting to get kind of heavy. There we go. Now where's my other screw? That's a good question. In my pocket. Grab my level. Look at this. You don't need friends to... Well, I did a dumb thing. This has to be a lot lower because I've got my second panel up there. That's what I meant to do. Apparently the heat is getting to me. It's my level, but it's at least level. So I can go get a different screw, put it in the right spot, and that's going to allow me, I still have access to get to my, yep, it is loud. That's going to allow me to still get to my pecs, get the adjustments dialed if I need to, but then also get that second integrator panel up here. So I'm going to find some more screws, probably come back tomorrow when I have the right screws, and we'll work on getting the rest of these things hung up. It's a new day. Well, for us now, it's a new night. I wanted to go ahead and get the second panel hung up on here, but I do have a question on one of the fittings, so I'm going to table that for the moment. But so I'm not just sitting around twiddling my thumbs, I want to go ahead and get the PEX hooked up between the first manifold here and one of our supplies from our panel here. This is zone 2. It's going to come out, go down into here. Zone 1 is going to run up, snake over, down to our other manifold over here. I did go ahead and get some better hardware to attach this manifold on, so I'm going to do that. But also what I'm going to do is just make some little stubs about 4 inches out, 90 degree, to tie these two together, and the same for out here. So we've got somewhere around here, there it is, our M12 PEX expansion tool. Thanks Darren for loaning that to me. And yeah, so let me go ahead, get this manifold in place first, then we'll come back and get those PEX lines installed. The nice thing is you can see I've got these 9 loops behind here for the returns, and then our main hot out goes right here, so when you see, they'll all line up, or at least very close, in this area. So, was a little bit of thought into placing these, so hopefully it all works out as I'd hoped. That manifold is in, it is level. You can't see it from up there, but it is dead on. I mean, I couldn't get it a whole lot better, maybe with a digital level, but hey, this is good enough. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and make some 4-inch stubs for this, and then we will get everything assembled and put on here, so let's just get to it. If I know where my tape measure went, right in front of me. Ow. Now, with any luck, these two are the same length. Now I want to grab a pair of my 90s here. And then some of my expansion rings. Now, if you watched our shop floor process, you kind of know how it goes. Stay. Stay. All right, well, let's just get this first one done. I'll give you a minute to release. Do the same one over here. Now, assuming this should be right, a good length. Excellent. Now, what are we guessing that length is going to be between the two? If I went with 8 3/4 inches, I think we'd be pretty good. Now, if I manage to not get Sharpie on my face, that'd be great. Got one. Now, for fun, how close are we? You know, they're about 1/4 inch long. But I can make that fit, because why? We're doing this at home. I'm just going to move this other panel out of my way so I don't step on it. There we go. Now, we've got to go ahead. One goes on here, one goes on here. That's the plan. There we go. That's what I'm looking for right there. And that fit together pretty well. So I'm going to get this other piece plumbed in for tonight and come back tomorrow, hopefully with more daylight and an answer on one of these little fittings here, if I have all the stuff inside or if something was missing. So until then, I'm going to plug away for a few more minutes here and call it a night. Next new day for me, I did go ahead and get a hold of Dustin over at Hydro Smart, and I figured out these two little fittings here. They had right here's one, a little insert, and one of my pipes was missing it, and it turns out these are for use if you're doing PEX interconnects between the two panels. I'm doing copper, so we can just take them out and throw them away. So we are back to needing my helper to help me get this other panel set up here, so that's going to have to wait. But as you can see, last night I went ahead and started getting some of my PEX installed here, and these tubes, as I mentioned, are going to tuck up here and down to the other manifold. But for right now, I want to go ahead and show you, I want to go ahead and put on one or two of these fittings to go ahead and get the PEX tied into the manifold. So you can see just like this and just like this. I should have a box over here full of these little fittings. Let me go find that. Got two different types of fittings here. One is the cap for the couple of loops that we are not going to be using on each manifold. And the other is the actual fitting that goes on the PEX. Here's our locking collar that goes around it. This end goes into the PEX itself, and then here is a compression collar. You see that as you, now focus on this, not me, there we go. As you tighten down this, focus, there we go, it will tighten down that collar and lock everything into place. Now the fun part is you really only have one shot of doing this. So you want to make sure you don't cut these things too short, but you've also got to be able to fit everything in place, so you've got a little bit of wiggle room here with the PEX, and I'll probably loosen up my manifold a little bit, just so I've got a little bit of wiggle room to go ahead and get these things in place. But for now, I'm going to go ahead, just kind of take a look at what I've got I have one, I had one. Let's go ahead and set you over here. And just know that this goes in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with and cut this off flush here, which should give me room. There we go. We can set our collar over here and set this over that, and everything fits up like this, snug. And then we take our collar or our locking nut and twist it around like this. Fun part is getting these things level and flat and flush. There we go, so it tightens up. Then I've got to go find my wrench for this, but it's just going to be a lot of tightening up these fittings. And you can see everything here is flush and fits just like it should. So I have 18 of these to do here for this manifold, and then another 18 to do over here. And I don't think you want to watch all of that, so I'm going to just speed my way through this, and when I come back, we'll have at least this first set of 18 done. Well, we are making more progress. I got the first set of 9 loops done. You started seeing me do the first one here, and I went ahead and did the other 8. I've got another 9 left to do over here behind me, but the next thing I have to do is get this other panel hung up here, and I've got to get my boiler hung over here, and for that I need some help. So if you see my lovely assistant down here, that means she wanted to be on camera, or at least begrudgingly agreed to be on camera. You can kind of see what we've got going on now. Of course, I could have compacted the space maybe 8 to 10 inches tighter. But again, we've got our manifold sticking out way over here anyways, so why cramp our space just to have a big hanging pile of nothingness over here. You can see we've got our top panel on. That is all secured in. Our copper between our 2 sections. Everything else here is screwed in. The boiler is up, level. Pretty darn good. Better half did not want to be on camera, but thank you for coming down and helping me get these things hung anyways. So glad to have this done. So now the next step, or steps I guess, is to finish the rest of this manifold down here behind me. But now you can see where these 2 pipes are going to come out, tuck behind, and go down into the second manifold. We also have our main set in return from our boiler, which is going to come down here, up and into these parts here. And after that, we can pressure test our system while we wait to have our electrical run and our LP piped in here as well. Our tank is already set and filled outside. There's a regulator on the side of the building. Just have to have the proper pipe run in and connected up here. So once those things are done, we can turn this thing on. That just sounds super simple, doesn't it? Well, for me, it's dark outside again, and I can't see a whole lot down here. So I'm going to call this an evening and come back hopefully tomorrow. You're seeing my shadow now. Let's go back here. Hopefully the next day, tomorrow for me, the next, well, scene for you, I'm going to get the rest of these manifolds wrapped up, get this plumbing done, and then we'll be able to hopefully, like I said, pressure test the system. And if all goes well, we don't have any nicks in our PEX in the concrete. And the plumbing up here is also done properly and air and fluid tight. We've got all of our plumbing down here done below. I do have to go ahead and find a way to keep some of these tubes tucked against the wall out of harm's way and just to keep things tidied. I had hoped I could have had a little different manifold configuration, moved everything over a little bit closer. I wanted to actually put the inputs on the back side, but that just didn't pan out. Would have given me about another foot closer for all of my lines. But here we are, and that's going to be just fine. The next thing I need to do is start plumbing in the rest of our PEX from our zones to our other manifold, and then our main supply from the boiler up to our integrator panel up here. So I need to first figure out where my last couple of fittings are for here, to go to my 3/4 inch PEX, and then also grab some more fittings and run these lines here. So I'm going to start doing this. I'll find some more PEX first and start plumbing things up. Alrighty, found some. I'm going to start, actually let me find my other fittings to get these things put on first. Okay, we have our tape. Just set you here for right now. A nice cleanish edge to start with. Get one here started and another one here. Should have my crescent wrench down here somewhere. Can tighten these up. I was going to put these on before I hung the boiler, but I forgot. There we go. Those are both pretty snug. I could go a little tighter, but you don't want to go too tight. Now, I have a little bit of PEX left over from the first piece. What I'm going to do is bring these both down just a little bit. Run one over and up. And then the same with the cold or the return over here. So let me do this one first, just so it's out of the way and done. Not a whole lot of science to this here. Or specifics. You can get the picture. I'm gonna go ahead and keep getting this plumbed up. New day for me. Last night, before I went up for the night, I ended up hooking up our air compressor and filling about 18, 19 pounds on the system. I opened up all of the valves to the manifold. I did not hear anything hissing at me, so that was a positive thing. I've come back down today and we're sitting at about 17 pounds on the system, so I'm gonna take that as a win. I know there's going to be a little bit of discrepancy for changes in the atmosphere. You know, last night it was about 90 degrees in here still when I went up, and now it's in the mid 70s, mid to low 70s. So that's a little bit of a give. But overall, we don't have a complete loss of pressure in the system. Who knows, this fitting might be a little weak. But that gives me confidence that we have a good, solid system here to hold pressure, and I'm not going to be weeping all of my glycol mixture out down the panel or in the floor. There's always a little concern if something gets nicked in the floor when you are pouring your concrete, and I don't see any evidence of that here, seeing as we're still holding a good amount of pressure. If I would have had a leak somewhere, I would have expected to have seen everything drop to 0 pounds, which I didn't. So that is great news. And for us, that's going to put us on a standstill until we go ahead and get our electrical plumbed in and our gas plumbed in. So I'm going to get that, have that done. And then that's going to allow us to do two things. We've got one wire stub for this control module to go up to our main pump that needs to get connected. And then of course we need to plug in our boiler and our main control unit here for the pumps. My goal would be to land the electrical somewhere either up here or over here, just so it's above any place where there is liquid for obvious reasons, and it's going to be out of the way to easily get unplugged by mistake. So that's where we're at now, and when I get all this rest of the stuff done and completed, we'll come back. We'll go ahead and fill our however many 50 gallons of goo into the system and get everything cranking. It's been a few days, but we've had an opportunity to have our electrical wired in, our LP plumbed in, and now we're going to wrap up with the purging of all the air out of our system and the introduction of all of our glycol or antifreeze, whatever you want to call it. We've already started. It's not a 5-minute process, and it's kind of loud with our Harbor Freight transfer pump. This does run on either 110 or battery power, so that's nice. But I got it because we need to take our roughly 50 gallons of glycol or antifreeze and introduce it into our heating system here. Now, depending on the system you've got, you may have different valving and configuration, but the main principle is to get all the fluid in and get all the air out. So we've got a couple of appliance hoses stuck in our bucket of goo, running into the pump, into the system, through all the piping and manifolds, and then hopefully what comes out of here is pretty much air, and then some fluid back into our bucket as we are purging out each of these zones. So I have 2 zones. Each zone has 9 loops in it, and we are going through loop by loop and opening up the valving to let all the air out of it and get replaced with that antifreeze. So I've got about 10 of them done now. I'm going to finish up with the other ones. When we come back, hopefully we'll be able to pressurize the system and get the pumps turned on and working for us. Well, we made it through about 8.5 of our 10 5-gallon pails. So one can go back to Menards, and the other one I'm going to keep here. I'm going to run a little more, the whole system open, just get any remaining air bubbles out of the system. But for now, what we can do is shut off our purge tee. We've got that, and then our air release. We need to go ahead and open that a 1 counterclockwise turn. It says right there on the dial. I already went ahead and pressurized the system with about 12 pounds on it right now. And I turned off our entrance and exit valves. So this is completely out of the system now. Our thermostats are turned on. I've got them set to 86 degrees for kicking everything on. If I turn them on, the pumps should fire up here in just a minute. We got heat. We got heat. Wait for it. Wait for it. There we go. Now I'm going to let this run for a bit. If I hear any like aeration, agitation, and all this plumbing, that's why I want to keep this pail open for a little bit. Just make sure we have all the air bubbles out. This up here should address those as well. But I want to go ahead and just let it run for a while and make sure we've got pressure. Make sure nothing leaks. Again, I filled everything up. I've done air tests. Everything seems to be just fine with no issues. So that's going to, I'm sorry, this is in the wrong position. That should go over here. That's better. It seemed too quiet. Wasn't hearing anything flow through the boiler. And of course I have a label that says boiler operation, fill. Right, way to go, Tim. Don't even read my own directions. Anyways, what I've got left to do is just have the LP supply outside turned on, then I can fire up the boiler and do a final test on everything, and then wait for it to get cold and have a nice warm floor. All right, you can see down here we've got our manifolds. So these are all opened up for our flow control. And then these here, we open those for filling up. Same thing over here. We've got little gauges for our temperature of the water flowing out and into our system. And the one thing I did like, I wanted to show you, was these thermostats. I do want to say that for a cheapy, $100 thermostat, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got an app on your phone, and the UI is just really nice. It's really responsive, it's quick, you've got all your settings here, very easy to get to. Heat, cool, auto. If you had a fan, you can set your scheduling. You can look at your history, what you've been doing. You can set a schedule. You can look at your humidity in here, temperature. Really pretty nice gauges, and overall a nice setup. You can set your if you're going on vacation or your regular schedule, you can do that too. Whether you want to have none, weekday, 7-day, 24-hour. For us, we're really not going to have a schedule because it just needs to run whenever it's cold. We can turn our fan off. Yep, we go and turn our system back off, both of them. And then just a few seconds here, the lights down here should turn off. There we go. That's going to about wrap it up for us. I've got a little bit of cleanup, tidying up to do, cable management. I'm going to pick up some standoffs for these pipes so that when you probably tell a little bit of vibration jiggling here, so just to keep these a little more stationary. But all in all, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, especially with these pre-made panels. Really helped out because I really did not want to sweat this much copper. I knew I would screw it up somewhere along the way and it wouldn't look anywhere near as good as this. Copper is not one of my fortes. So yeah, this is our big other project that sort of happened this year, in addition to the concrete. So yeah, quite a feat. Thanks to my father for coming down and help me with some things as well, and help get this thing on its way. And also thanks to Dustin over at the Hydro Smart teams in the north end of the cities here. Gave me some advice and some input on how to best set this system up. They were a great help. They didn't sponsor this at all, but they were very helpful and they're responsive, and I think it's a pretty good product. Time will tell, but for me, everything got installed. I didn't have any leaks. I don't have any other leaks in the plumbing. I think this is going to be pretty great for us, even if we're only using it to keep the slab from freezing this winter. I think it's going to be a great benefit down the road as the rest of the building gets insulated. So for now, it's time to finish picking up my mess here and get back to working on car stuff over there, because that's what you're really here to see most of the time, right? Because it surely isn't my pretty face. Anyways, if you like stuff like this, hit the subscribe button below. If you like working on cars, check out the other videos and subscribe below too. Until the next video, we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. And really, I gotta stop looking at the monitor over here because the lens is right here. Bad habit. Anyways, see you later.